Extra time in a World Cup knockout match has looked completely different depending on which decade you watched it in. Sudden death that could end in 30 seconds, a bizarre experiment almost nobody remembers, and the two full uninterrupted halves used today. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why FIFA kept rewriting this rule for over a decade. Why the experiment that was supposed to fix extra time made it worse in some ways, and why the current format has survived without a single change since 2006. If you appreciate this type of content, gently tap that like button. Let's get into it. Start with the basic problem extra time exists to solve, because it's easy to take for granted once you've watched enough tournaments. A World Cup knockout match has to produce a winner. There's no next match in a round-robin table to fix it. No away goals tiebreaker carried over from a different leg. If two teams are level after 90 minutes, the tournament needs a mechanism to keep going. And for most of the World Cup's history, that mechanism was simple. Play more football. Extra time adds 30 extra minutes split into two periods, giving both teams a genuine chance to settle it with an actual goal before the tournament resorts to penalties, which everyone in the sport, players and fans alike, has always treated as the least satisfying way for a knockout match to end. For decades, that 30 minutes was just two more uninterrupted 15-minute halves, played exactly like a normal half of football, all the way to the final whistle regardless of what happened in between. If a team scored in minute 92, the match didn't stop. It kept playing until the full 15-minute period was up, and the same again for the second period. It produced some of the most dramatic stretches in World Cup history precisely because nothing was rushed. West Germany's comeback against France in 1982 unfolded across a full 30 minutes of extra time, including a penalty shootout that followed once the additional half hour still couldn't separate them. Whatever criticisms existed about extra time before the 1990s were about fatigue and injuries piling up in tournaments that already demanded a lot from players' bodies, not about the actual structure of how the 30 minutes were played. The push for an alternative came from a different complaint entirely. Too many high-stakes knockout matches were still ending in penalties, and FIFA's lawmaking body wanted a format that rewarded attacking football in extra time instead of two cautious teams playing not to lose, knowing a shootout was the fallback either way. The fix they landed on was sudden death dressed up with a new name, golden goal, introduced into the laws of the game in 1993, where the first team to score in extra time would win the match instantly, the moment the ball crossed the line, with no need to play out the rest of the period at all. 1998 in France was the format's World Cup debut, and it didn't take long for the concept to actually decide a match. Laurent Blanc scored the first golden goal in World Cup history for the host nation against Paraguay in the round of 16. And the instant the ball went in, the match was simply over. No remaining half hour, no chance for Paraguay to respond, just an immediate final whistle and a wave of celebration that felt different from a normal extra time winner, precisely because everyone watching knew the match couldn't continue past that single moment. It was exactly the kind of dramatic, decisive ending the rule change was designed to produce. 2002 gave golden goal its single biggest and most controversial World Cup moment. South Korea's last 16 match against Italy, co-hosts against one of the tournament's pre-tournament favorites. Italy had a goal disallowed and missed a penalty earlier in the match, and deep into extra time, Ahn Jung-hwan headed in the golden goal that eliminated Italy and sent South Korea into the quarterfinals of a World Cup on home soil for the first time in their history. The goal is still remembered as one of the most euphoric moments in South Korean football history, and, depending on who you ask in Italy, one of the most contested officiating storylines of the entire tournament, since the sudden death format meant there was no opportunity for Italy to respond to anything that happened in the minutes before it. What golden goal's designers didn't fully anticipate was how it would actually change team behavior once extra time started. and it's the exact opposite of what the rule was built to encourage. Knowing that conceding a single goal at any point meant instant elimination, coaches pulled their teams into deeper, more cautious defensive shapes the moment extra time began, unwilling to commit numbers forward and risk the one mistake that would end the match outright. Instead of producing more attacking, end-to-end extra-time periods, golden goal frequently produced the opposite. Two teams sitting back, terrified of the single moment that could decide everything, playing some of the most risk-averse 30 minutes of football in the entire tournament. The rule meant to reward attacking play ended up rewarding whichever team was more afraid to attack first. UEFA tried a halfway house fix at the European Championship in 2004, called the silver goal, where a goal scored in the first 15-minute period of extra time would end the match at the halftime interval rather than instantly, giving the trailing team at least a few uninterrupted minutes to respond before the match could be killed off. It never made it to a Men's World Cup at all, and it didn't even survive long at the Euros. It produced the same defensive caution golden goal did, just with a slightly longer fuse, and football's lawmakers quietly shelved it within a couple of years, without ever giving it the global stage golden goal had already had. By 2006, FIFA abandoned the entire golden goal experiment and went back to exactly what existed before 1993. Two full, uninterrupted 15-minute halves, played to the final whistle no matter what happens in between. Exactly the same structure the format had used for decades before anyone tried to engineer a more dramatic version of it. The reasoning was straightforward once the data from 1998 and 2002 was in. Sudden death wasn't producing more exciting football, it was producing more cautious football, and the simplest fix was to just remove the instant kill mechanism that was causing the caution in the first place. It turned out two full uninterrupted halves were the more entertaining version all along, just not for the reason anyone expected going in. With the threat of instant elimination removed, teams trailing in extra time had actual incentive to push for an equalizer or a winner across the full 30 minutes instead of bunkering the moment the first period started. Because a goal conceded in minute 95 no longer ended the match outright, there was still time left to respond. Some of the most memorable extra-time stretches in the post-2006 era have come from exactly that dynamic. Teams committing players forward deep into added time because the clock, not a single goal, was now the only thing that could end the match. What hasn't gone away, and never really can, is the physical cost extra time puts on a tournament built around a brutally tight schedule. A team that goes to extra time in the round of 16 plays 120 minutes instead of 90, then has roughly the same recovery window before the quarterfinal as a team that finished its match in regulation time. Stack 2 or 3 extra time matches across a single knockout run, and by the final, a team can be carrying a meaningfully higher number of total minutes played and a correspondingly higher injury and fatigue risk than an opponent who's avoided extra time the whole tournament. It's one of the quieter ways a World Cup's knockout stage can be decided as much by accumulated fixture load as by the quality of the football in any single match. Heading into 2026, none of this structure changes. Knockout matches level after 90 minutes still go to 2 full 15-minute periods of extra time, played out completely regardless of when a goal is scored, with penalties as the fallback, as the scoreline is still tied after the full 30 minutes. The only adjustment the expanded 40-18 format brings is volume, not mechanics. More knockout rounds, starting from a round of 32 that didn't exist in the 32-team era, means more total opportunities across the tournament for a match to go the distance, and for the extra time fatigue question to matter for a team trying to survive deep into the bracket. The fact that this rule has gone completely untouched since 2006, after FIFA spent over a decade actively experimenting with sudden death and a silver goal compromise before that, says something about how rare it is for football's lawmakers to actually find a version of the rule that works well enough to stop tinkering with it. Golden goal was a genuinely clever idea on paper that produced the opposite of its intended effect on the pitch. And the format that replaced it wasn't a new invention at all. It was just the original, pre-1993 version of extra time, restored once everyone agreed the experiment hadn't improved on it. That's really the whole arc of this rule. Football tried to engineer more drama into extra time. The engineered version produced less of it, and the sport quietly went back to the version it started with, which, 20 years later, is still exactly what 2026 will use. And if you want to know which World Cup qualifying campaigns produce the kind of chaos, controversy, and outright impossible drama that extra time on its own could never match, I made a video on exactly that. You can check it out by clicking right here.